This is Colin O'Keefe for LXBN TV. We're entering a new era where companies and brands can speak directly to their customers instead of going through the press. While this has many advantages, the SEC has taken some issue with it recently, as Netflix and its CEO can attest following a Facebook post he made. Joining me now to explain why they got in a bit of trouble is Robert White Jr. of Gunster and their blog, The Securities Edge. Robert, can you explain to us exactly what happened and why the SEC has taken issue with this?
Sure, Colin. Thank you. What happened is, as you mentioned, Reed Hastings, who's the CEO of Netflix, posted a standard post on his Facebook account. All it was recognizing one of his managers for exceeding a metric as far as content goes at Netflix. Didn't seem like a real big deal. The SEC, I guess Mr. Hastings has about 200,000 followers on Facebook, and I guess the SEC took exception to that because it was under what's called Regulation FD, which is intended to cause full disclosure and fair disclosure as opposed to selective disclosure. The SEC felt that this was a selective disclosure by Mr. Hastings only to his followers and not to the public at large. And that's really was the issue for the SEC. Mr. Wells and Netflix got what's called a Wells notice, which is a statement of the SEC by the SEC of their intent to bring an action against a company, or in this case, a company and him as an individual, for violation of Regulation FD. And that's where it stands right now. Nothing else has happened to the best of my knowledge, but that was really the basis for all this.
And second, obviously some changes need to be made. Do you think companies need to adjust their behavior to fit the SEC, or does the SEC need to adapt, at least in some part, to a changing technological landscape? Possibly this is somewhere in between.
Well, to be honest, both sides have to move a little bit, but I clearly think the SEC has to move much farther than the individuals. Social media is it's a juggernaut. It's not going to stop. People are going to continue to use it. In my view, it's a given. It's there. In my view, the SEC has to find out a way to work with it. And in my view, again, social media has reached the position where it is full disclosure. It's out there and everywhere in the public, especially when you consider the amount of posts and other things that are retweeted and passed on by other users. It's just an enormous distribution. In my view, the SEC Regulation FD went into effect in the year 2000. So I think they're still looking at the year 2000, right long before social media reached its current position. And I think that's what we're dealing with here. Now, so I think the SEC has to move much farther than the individuals. Now, in the SEC's defense, they've got a lot on their plate. I mean, they've got the Jobs Act, they've got insider trading. They've had a series of really high-level departures lately, too, which is going to slow things down. So I doubt this is very high on their list. But it needs to be, just because this is something that a lot of people do, and more people, as time goes on, are going to be doing this.
Again, that was Robert White Jr. of Gunster and the Securities Edge. For his in-depth insight on this story, be sure to visit thesecuritiesedge.com, and for curated commentary from the LexBlog Network's thousands of authors, along with more video interviews, visit us at lxbn.com. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Colin.